This is the recording for the English Phonological Awareness video artifact training. The first thing I want to make very clear is that phonological awareness has to do with sound discrimination, with manipulating sounds. No letters are involved in a phonological awareness lesson. Again, phonological awareness has to do with sound manipulation, and it involves no letters whatsoever, not showing letters, not mentioning letters. And so let's move on. So there are a few steps to consider in preparing the phonological awareness video artifact. The first thing is that you have to understand the phonological awareness teaks that is provided to you, and I will tell you what that teaks is momentarily. And actually, I can go ahead and mention it now since I've already mentioned something about it when I was talking about phonological awareness at the beginning. So the teaks that you are going to be working from is the teak that deals with manipulating sounds in words or manipulating sounds in general. It could be to make words and things like that. And so the specific skill, though, found within that broader teaks is that you're going to decide whether you're going to focus on middle or final phoneme or sound substitution. Phoneme just means sound. So you're going to you're going to decide what your focus for your lesson is going to be. Again, you are going to decide whether you are going to focus on middle sound substitution in a word to make a new word, or whether you're going to focus on final sound substitution in a word to make a new word. What does substitution mean? Substitution means taking out one sound from a word and adding another sound to form a new word. Okay? For example, if I have the word cat and I want to focus on final sound substitution, if I have the word cat and I take out the t and I add n, my new word is can. That is what substitution means. Okay. If I want to focus on middle sound substitution and I have the word pat and I take out the ah and I add the sound I, then my new word is pit. Okay, if you notice when I said those substitutions, I did not mention letter names. I mentioned sounds only. All right, so once you have determined what your lesson focus will be, you are going to script out your lesson aligned, of course, to the specific skill that you have selected, and your lesson does have to follow the gradual release model format. What is that format? You all are probably very familiar with it. It is the I do, we do, you do model. However, for this lesson, because you will not have actual students in front of you, you will only pretend to deliver this lesson to your students. Because of that reason, you are not going to include the you do part of the lesson. You will only videotape the I do and we do part of the lesson delivery. All right, so once you have scripted out your lesson, you're going to record your lesson in Studio. In your course, you have a feature called Studio that allows you to record and house any videos that have to do with this course. And I will teach you later on how to record in Studio, and I will show you where you can find videos that will walk you through this process as well as how to share your video with your cohort leader, and then how to upload your final video into the appropriate place at the end of Module 6E. I do want to mention that in order for you to be able to work on your video artifact, you do not have to be on Module 6E already, or you do not have to have it completed yet to be able to work on your draft. So that is why we are providing you with training early on, and because the draft window did open today on November 8th and will continue all the way up to December 10th. So we are giving you time now to submit a draft to us unofficially, and that way we can provide you with all the feedback necessary so that you can have this draft ready. And be able to turn it in as your final, because of course you will turn in the video that you may or may not have to record again, based on the comments that your cohort leader gives you. But anyway, once you have the video you want to submit as your final video, the one that will be graded by the people that are assigned to us from outside of the district to grade them, then you will have that ready so that when you do complete Module 6 by the latest in the first week of January, you will already have your video ready. Okay, again, I want to mention that you do not have to be on Module 6E at this moment in order for you to be able to get your draft to us for feedback so that you will have your video ready by the time you finish Module 6E at the latest by the first week of January, because you do need to submit your final video for grading by January 12th of 2022. And once your video artifact is submitted, the graders will have about 20 days to grade your artifact, and your grades for the artifact will be released on February 10th, 2022. As I mentioned previously, the broad teaks involved in your video artifact is manipulating manipulating phonemes, because you are in the English track. You are going to be manipulating phonemes, and that just simply means manipulating sounds within base words. Now, I do want to tell you at this moment that there is criteria for the kinds of words you are going to be using, and I will tell you what that criteria is momentarily. Now, because of plagiarism issues last year in other cohorts outside of Aldine, you are now required to sign an academic integrity affirmation statement, and that should be found after somewhere after slide 6E 5.15. So make sure you sign off on that. Your specific skill again is to teach a lesson in which you are focusing on substituting the middle or final sounds in words to make new words. The following is the criteria for the kinds of words you need to choose for your lesson. You will need 2 words for the I do part of your lesson, and you will need 2 different words for your we do part of the lesson. What kinds of words will you be able to model with and then pretend that you're providing the students practice with? Well, you have to use 1-syllable words that contain between 3 to 5 sounds in them. A word of caution. You need to know the difference between digraphs and blends, and also between R-controlled vowel words. Let me give you an example. The word car, if I say the sounds in car, I would say k, r. So car only has 2 sounds. So that is not a word that would qualify as a word that is a one syllable word, yes, it does meet that criteria. However, because the word car does not contain three or more sounds in it, it would not qualify as a word that you can use. Remember that I said car only has two sounds. We're not thinking amounts of letters in a word. We're thinking the amount of sounds we hear when we articulate that word. Okay? Another thing to keep in mind if you do want to break down words or segment words for your students before so that they can really hear the sounds and then they'll really know what middle sound is going to be substituted or what final sound will be substituted. You need to be very careful if you choose words that have blends that you do not say a blend as one sound. Let me give you an example. In the word clap, some people in the past have said that clap has the following sounds. Cool, ah. Well, that is incorrect because the C and the L do not work together as one sound. So if we really say the sounds correctly for the word clap, they would be the following. K, oo, ah. So the word clap actually has four sounds. Okay, so be very careful of the words you choose in terms of making sure that they are one syllable words, but also making sure they are words that contain between 3 to 5 phonemes. And also that if you decide to articulate each sound in that word, that you do know which sounds are considered digraphs, such as the TH, SH, PH, WH, those kinds of words. When you use those digraphs, those are used as one sound. But when you are going to segment a word and you're going to try to articulate those sounds for the students, make sure that with blends like CL, BL, FL, CR, PR, those kinds of things where two consonants like that are together, those two consonants each make their own separate sounds. Finally, be very careful of the schwa sound. The schwa sound is that sound that we sometimes add to consonant sounds. For example, if I were to say the sound for the letter B, I would say B. Very crisp, clean, and clipped sound. However, many of us were taught, or we've even heard in videos, that the sound for the letter B is pronounced B. We do not have an sound at the end of any of the consonants or any other sound in the alphabet. So, for example, I need to say my sounds in the following way. B, k, d, g. I do not need to hear an sound, or I do not need to place an sound at the end of any of those, at the end of any of those sounds. So be very careful of that. All right, the following is the lesson format. The lesson format is as follows. You will start with stating your main objective in student-friendly language. You will explicitly teach the skill, but before explicitly teaching or modeling that skill, you will state the specific skill that you would be focusing on. And then, of course, you will model the required skill with 2 words. So these first 3 parts of your lesson are all considered the I do part of your lesson. Next, you will provide opportunities for your students to practice and respond. You're going to pretend that they're practicing and responding with the use of 2 more words. When you are pretending to provide your students with opportunities for guided practice, for one of those words that you choose, you're going to create a corrective feedback moment. That means a moment where you identify that the students have answered incorrectly and you explain briefly to them why they answered incorrectly. Okay? And then you will ask them to try that word again. You may use some type of scaffolding technique so that they can really hear exactly and know exactly what you want them to do. So you will have them try that word again, and this time they will answer correctly and you will acknowledge that. Then for the next word you use, or have your students practice with, you're going to make sure to include an affirming feedback moment. And that's just a moment where you tell your students that they got the answer correct. So how would you tell them that? You need to make sure you script both of those instances in your we do part of the lesson or the guided practice part of the lesson. Finally, throughout your entire lesson, you need to make sure to clearly and accurately articulate the sounds in words. This is very important because if you do not, 10 points are taken off right off the bat for not doing that. All right. If you go to the Aldine Reading Academy website, you can find resources that may be helpful to you for this artifact, and I will go there momentarily, but just know that that is available for you. So what we have included as well is this template. One of the resources we've included on the Aldine website is this script template, which contains some tips here for each part of the lesson that you're going to prepare. All right. So it's very important that you take advantage of that and that you go to that website so that you can see exactly how your script should be written out and what you should include in it. And I will take you there momentarily. All right, some more things you need to know about artifact submission requirements. Your video artifact should be submitted by using Studio in Canvas. Your video should be 2 minutes or less in length, because anything that goes beyond the 2 minutes will not be considered for scoring. Also, you should be visible in the video the entire time. You should not have other people in your video, or other people's voices should not be heard in your video either. Also, your video should be in the language of the coursework. So in your case, of course, your video is going to be in English. In addition, once you preview your video after you've recorded it, it needs to be heard easily. In other words, you need to make sure the volume on your computer is raised all the way to high so that when it's played back, we are able to hear you, or the person that's going to grade your artifact is able to hear you very loud and clear. In addition to that, you need to make sure your video is focused. Another thing to consider is that you need to make sure that you do not turn in a link. Links are not acceptable. Are not an acceptable format for your video. You have to actually upload your video from Studio into the place at the end of Module 6 wherever you are being asked to do so. All right. Again, let me remind you about the draft. You are going to submit a draft of the phonological awareness video to your cohort leader for feedback. We will use the following feedback form to provide you with feedback. The draft window will be open from November 8th all the way to December 10th. Please make sure you submit your video, your draft video within that window of time, because after that we get extremely busy with grading artifacts that are assigned to us from around the state, and that might be up to 400 to 500 artifacts that we have to grade. So we will no longer be available to provide you with any more feedback on your drafts. We are going to be extremely busy with our own grading. If there is a special case that you may need to tell us about, then you can always reach out to your cohort leader so that we can work with you in any way that we can to help you be successful in completion of this course with all requirements met. All right, the requirements for your final artifact. The coursework for Module 6E, as I mentioned before, must be completed in order for you to submit your final video at the end of Module 6. You won't be able to turn it in until you get to the end of Module 6 because, as you've already noticed, you have to complete every single module in order. And that phonological awareness video at the end of Module 6E will not open up for you until you are actually there on that page and you have completed everything else in Module 6. All right, also remember again that your video artifact must be recorded in Canvas Studio. Again, no links will be considered for grading. And your video needs to meet all the criteria that I've already mentioned to be considered for grading. Let's see, that is all I want to say about the video itself. Let me now go to showing you where you can find the resources for this artifact. If you click on any email that I've ever sent you, there's this blue website button. And if you click on it, it will take you to the website. And once you are there, you are going to go to the Artifacts tab. And you will see the Phonological Awareness video artifact materials here. We are going to place one of the videos, actually this video that I'm recording will be placed in this area so that you can listen to it again if need be. Your English lesson script template will be found if you just click on this blue folder. And if I go to it now, this is what your tips for your script sheet looks like. It tells you exactly the format that you're going to use. You will begin your lesson by stating your objective in student-friendly language. So for example, if I was stating my objective, I would make sure that I say what I'm going to say about manipulating sounds in words to make new words, and I would say that in student-friendly language, and I would tell it directly to my students. So I will make sure I write that down in this section, okay? For your objective, you do not mention the specific skill focus yet. If you notice, I didn't mention anything about the specific skill. I just focused on saying something about the manipulating sounds within words to make new words because that is your main teach. Now, once you get to this explicitly teach the skill part, this is where you will script out the specific skill focus for your lesson. So let's say, for example, I am going to focus on middle sound substitution for my lesson. Then I would make sure I tell that to my students in this part. I would script that out. So I would say something like, today I'm going to teach you, and then you would tell them exactly what you're going to teach them. What is your specific skill focus going to be for them? Is it going to be middle sound substitution in words to make new words, or is it going to be final sound substitution or replacement in a word to make new words? Make sure that if you are going to use the word substitution, that you briefly explain it to the students so that things will be very clear for them. Once you state your main objective in student-friendly language and your explicit skill focus in student-friendly language, you will model the skill for your students with 2 words. It says it right here. Accurately model with at least 2 words. Okay? Remember the criteria. They have to be 1-syllable words that contain 3 to 5 sounds. And in this part, you need to make sure you say what the word is, then you say what sound you are going to replace in the word, and then state what your new word would be. That is the way to model your word. Then you would do the same thing with a second word. You would say the word, you would mention what sound you are going to replace in the word, and then you would state the new word. Once you are done with that, you have to think about a transition sentence that you would use, because now, after you have modeled the skill, now you're going to pretend to allow the students to practice with you. So how would you tell your students that? Okay. Now I want to be very clear. When you do the modeling part of the lesson, you do not use the words we, or you do not tell the students that they're going to repeat something after you. You do not include the students in any way, shape, or form during the I do part of the lesson. Okay? For the guided practice, this is where you will pretend that students are practicing and responding according to what you're asking them to do. So then you will choose 2 different words now to pretend that you're allowing the students an opportunity to practice the skill. Okay? So for example, you're going to tell them a word, and you're going to tell them that what happens if you replace this sound for this other sound, and then you will ask them, well, what is the new word? And then you will provide them about a second or 2 wait time and pretend that you're hearing them answer. You will decide whether you're going to pretend to hear them answer correctly or incorrectly, and you're going to provide them with the appropriate feedback. Okay? Then you will do the same thing for a second word where you state the word. You tell the students you're going to replace this sound for another sound. And then you would ask them, well, what's the new word? And you would provide them 1 or 2 seconds of wait time again, and you will script in whether you're going to pretend to hear them make a mistake or not. And if they do make a mistake with this second word, then you have to correct them and have them try that word again. And this time you're going to pretend to listen to them say the correct answer. It is very important when you pretend that you're hearing them say something incorrectly, that you briefly say something like, oh, you know what, let's try that again because someone said this instead of that, or not quite, or however you want to really signal that the student has gotten that incorrectly, but make sure you say why they've gotten that incorrectly and then redirect them to try it again. This is just part of the affirming feedback moment and the corrective feedback moment. You can go ahead and script in here how you would have students, you would script in here what type of feedback you're going to use for one of those practice words. If it's going to be affirming, well, how would you write that out? How would you say that to students? How would that go? Okay, how would the work with that word go? Same thing for your corrective feedback word. How would the work with that word go? Finally, how would you close out your lesson? Once that you've done the I do and the we do, what would you tell the students next? You have to kind of close out your lesson with a sentence or a phrase so that the students will know you've finished with the lesson for that day. Finally, we've included here a lesson script blank section of a whole page's worth of a blank section so that if you want to write out your script in a way that just flows with all the parts that I've already mentioned up here above, then you can go ahead and do that. And so the final thing I want to show you is that when you go to the actual website again, you have a tip sheet here provided for you so that these are things you need to remember or keep in mind as you look back at the video that you've recorded. You need to make sure that all of these things are in place. Okay. And if you need to contact your cohort leader for any reason, for support with this video artifact, you may do so. So going back to the actual website, if you need to know how to record your video in studio and anything like that, you would go to the How to Videos section. You would scroll to the very bottom where it says Artifacts. Here you will find a video that shows you how to record your video in Canvas, how you can share your video through Studio for feedback with your cohort leader, how to upload the draft for feedback, how to upload your final artifact from Canvas Studio into the place where you're supposed to do so at the end of Module 6. All of that is found there for you. So if you just click on this icon, it will take you to that how-to video, okay? Now, I want to show you exactly how you would share your video in Studio for feedback with your cohort leader, okay? So let's say, for example, I go to my course, I go to my dashboard, and once I'm on my dashboard, I go to this bar here, the blue bar, and I go to Studio. And let's say I've already recorded my video and this is the video that I want to submit or that I want to share with my cohort leader so that she can provide me with feedback. So I would click on these three buttons. I would click Share Media. I would type in my cohort leader's name and it should pop up there. And then I would select their name, of course, and then I would click Done. However, this is not the final step if you want to share your media with your cohort leader. Your cohort leader does not automatically know that you have shared the video with him or her. What you need to do is via Aldine email, send an email, a quick email to your cohort leader saying, you know what, I just shared my video artifact with you through Studio. Can you please provide me with feedback? And that way your cohort leader will know where to go find your video, or they will know that there's now a video in Studio somewhere from you, and they know where to access it. And basically that is it for this training. If you have any questions, you are more than welcome to reach out to your cohort leader via their contact methods, and we are here to support you in any way we can in successful completion of the of Artifact 1, the Phonological Awareness Video Artifact.